Welcome to the EQ Video Tip. I'm your host, Eric Forsetter, and as always, thank you so much for joining us for another terrific edition. Before we jump into this week's tip, let's review the goals of EQ Video Tip. What's on tap for this week? Well, it's a great one. It comes to us from Rachel Fenzig, who talks to us about how to become a better and braver public speaker. And let's face it, public speaking isn't easy. We get nervous, our hands get sweaty, we might start to sweat, we start to stammer, we worry, are people going to like us? Are they going to be interested? Are we funny? Are we interesting? Do we connect with the audience? There's so many different things. And it could be speaking to a small team of 5 people who are peers, or speaking to 500 people, or even 5,000 or 50,000. Whatever it might be, we need to be ready to speak in public in a organized and efficient manner. Let's jump into some of the tips that Rachel talks about how to become the best public speaker and a braver one as well. Tip number 1, consider your audience. And that's a great one to start with, because what do you want your audience and the people listening to you, what do they need? And what do you want them to know and feel and think after watching you? When you consider those things, it makes it much easier so that you can decide, am I going to be funny? Am I going to be lighthearted? Am I going to tell a story? Where am I going to start? So consider your audience before you start doing anything in terms of public speaking. Tip number 2. If you have already considered your audience, consider using now a story that will be a great anecdote as well. And remember, these anecdotes have to be focused. They have to make sure that there's a key takeaway for your audience, an emotion, something that they need to impart from that story, or you need to impart into them from that story. And stick to tried and true structures, like giving them a problem or an example, outlining it, and wrapping it up with the benefit at the end. And comparing these things at the end as well, comparing and contrasting two things. Those things are awesome, and they end up giving you a good conclusion that your audience is going to have a takeaway at the end. Tip number 3, remember when, or picture this. Use words that get yourself more granular and get the audience thinking. Say something like, what if? Get their imagination to start thinking more and become more interested in what you're saying. Because the more their minds start thinking about what you're saying, the more interested, and they start believing and buying into all the different things that you're doing. So get granular in your words and ask questions like, what if, or remember when. Our next tip, vary your voice and pause. A simple pause like that makes someone think. Ask a question, pause. Think about it. Is this interesting? Maybe. Is it something that you might use in your next presentation? Probably. Is it something where you can interact with the audience? Definitely. So pause. Think about those things. Our last tip. Are you nervous? Of course you are. I'm nervous, but I'm not really nervous. Instead, I'm really excited. And it's always important to say, hey, I'm excited about something as opposed to nervous. Because if you label that emotion and you change it, your mind starts thinking differently and starts saying, you know what, I'm excited to present and I know I can do this. And changing that mindset will help you and help force you to become a better speaker. Now, it's okay to be nervous, but we want to use that nervous energy to help us and to convey those other tips that we just went through. So make sure you're saying to yourself, I'm excited about this, and also tell yourself, I got this, I can do it. Because when you're done, you know that nervous energy is going to dissipate and disappear. So you got this, and remember, I'm excited. That concludes this week's EQ video tip. We hope you liked it. These are great tips. The whole seminar itself was amazing. If you have a chance, make sure you go out and watch it as well. Thanks again for watching. Here's a quick review of the tips on this week's show. So that concludes our EQ video tip for today. Try incorporating some of these tips into your daily routine. But remember, use what works best for you and personalize it for yourself. Thank you always to our great research team for providing us with some great tips today. As always on EQ Video Tip, we want to end with gratitude. So thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. Here are some resources that you can use if you want more information on EQ going forward. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you.